From a very early time, the idea of a utopia was strongly fixed in the mind of the people. Plotinus approached the emperor of Rome and asked the emperor to give him a place for a city of the wise. There was an old deserted community on the Campagna of Rome, and here he said if they would give him this, he would build a city of wisdom. And the emperor was very much in favor of the idea. But when it was presented to the Senate, they turned it down instantly. And the reason they turned it down was very simple. They said very, very definitely, if this city succeeds and wisdom and integrity rules, that's the end for us. So rather than take a chance of losing their own corruptions, they forbade the building or dedication of Platonopolis, the city of the wise. But the dream went on through More's Utopia, through Bacon's New Atlantis. And in Bacon we find the summarizing of the whole concept, the New Atlantis, which is America. That here was to be the great experiment, that opportunities and privileges and rights, that a clean earth free from the conspiracies of Europe would be able to accomplish that which was necessary. Now the Atlanteans seemingly had certain concepts that were important. But as Plato points out, they rose against the truth. They destroyed themselves by the corruption of knowledge. They created a scientific empire, and their own sciences destroyed them. There was the story of the land that destroyed itself by losing its own virtues, by corrupting its own ways. We have given a thought to the idea that the Atlantean navigators brought with them some colonizers. These navigators landed on various areas and established centers of their own culture. Every nation of importance has the same origin legends, identical in every respect, that at a great time past, ships, dragons, boats, mysterious flying monsters came out of the sea, and from these came forth founders and creators of nations. And they came ashore, and they set up various colonies. In the case of the Aztec Maya complex, we are told that out of the sea came a raft of serpents, and on this raft was a mysterious elder, Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. He wore long robes and a great feathered bonnet, and on his robes were crosses, and he carried a Crosier in his hand. And he came ashore, and he taught the people. He gave them instructions in agriculture. He taught them medicine and art. He taught them the laws by which they could build a permanent culture. He gave them a written language, and he also gave them the rules of architecture, husbandry, and all of the learned cultures, including music, poetry, and literature. And having established a firm government, he then went back into the sea, and before he left, he turned to the people and said, "Take care of the things I have given you, and I will come back and rule over you again." But he never came back. On the other side of the world, in Chaldea and Babylonia, there rose out of the sea a mysterious being, OANNES, the fishman. This man came from somewhere beyond the oceans, and he walked upon the land, and he had a body of a human being and the head of a fish. I might remind you that the bishop's mitre is the head of a fish. And this being taught the people. He gave them the language, he taught them medicine and art, he taught them agriculture, he taught exactly the same things that Quetzalcoatl had taught to the Western Hemisphere. He also returned to the sea and said he would return, but he never came back. Now it is believed by some at least that these were from the Atlantean continent. They were civilizers from that mysterious land that vanished away, according to the Codex Torano, taking 60 million people to death in a single night. The reason they never came back was because they had been destroyed. One way or another, the message came through that there was a plan for the Western Hemisphere. This paradise of the West sort of built up a reputation for itself, a reputation of beauty, of wonder, of unspoiled land, of common kindness, and of peace and freedom from all of the stress and emergencies of European life. And now, as the result of so many of these older plans, we have come to our present emergency, an emergency in which a people, educated, cultured, skillful, a people basically of good intention, have managed to bind themselves into a turmoil. But in this moment or this time of stress and trial, it is very important that there must be, a growing and enlarging realization of the essential purpose for which this nation was founded. America is not a country. America is an assignment of destiny. Little by little, this country is beginning to take on the measure of its own destiny. Insecurity is causing us to restore the inner values of our lives. We have made a mistake, a bad one, and we are being tempered by a fire of adversity, but we are not going to be destroyed. Millions of people who not long ago had very little but superficial thoughts are now beginning to sense the importance of investigating, considering, enlarging, and improving their own inner lives and making new and gracious dedications to the common good. Worldliness is gradually coming to an end. Worldliness is the individual investing his hopes, his beliefs, his fears, and his securities in material things, the most fragile and impermanent of all. There is no permanence in this world. There is no permanence in the institutions that we build. There is no security in this material state of things. Security consists of the unfoldment of eternals and principles within ourselves. It may take time before the internal is strong enough to control the external, but that's what has been building up since the beginning. Man's gradual victory over the weaknesses in himself. If you go out in the night, you see only the stars, maybe the moon. You sit quietly under this bowl of heaven with all of its lights, and if you are very still and very quiet, these stars open like flowers, and you behold the hierarchy. You behold the great universal plan, and you realize that man cannot frustrate the work of 100 billion suns, that he cannot destroy the great plan which has existed forever.